Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFU Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here. We are not live, which means if we screw up, we can just go in and edit it. So it's wonderful. We don't have to experience the drama of being live. So, but actually, sorry, folks. We did want to do the show live, but we want to deliver quality content, and we always want to deliver quality content of the highest order. So. Fortunately, John is traveling, which, hey, we all got to have a day job. Patreon.com/RFURefugees if you want us to maybe rethink our whether we need our day job. But for now, we're just gonna soldier on. We got DC content, we got Spirit content, all kinds of stuff. John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? I know it was good.
Yeah, no, it was good. Well, it wasn't all good. Baseball season's over. I lost in the playoffs. Not very good there. And I'm trying. I thought, I travel enough that I have the good Wi-Fi internet at Marriott, and still horrible, just awful, live streamable. So real sorry about that. Trying to do our best, but yeah, weekend was good. Back on the road again. It's been a little bit. I think I had like 5 weeks off, and yeah, doing my thing. What about you, Ted?
I spent the weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's right.
Went to see DC play in Charlotte. We tried to get an Instagram Live. Couldn't get it to work. Instagram Live won't do it through my headphones, so I literally had no way to hear John at all. I didn't even know he was on the live until he was like, "I'm here." I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Yeah, I have to like hold this up. This is not going to be good. We'll bag it." So
technology is not our friend this weekend.
It is not been our friend this weekend. Neither is DC, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, I had a good time. I got to see an uncle I haven't seen really since my wedding, which was fun, and had a good time with him. And of course, my dad, and we're planning next year's trip. So Stay tuned to RFK Refugees to see what next year's trip's going to be. So the trip was good. The experience was interesting. I before we get into the game, I do, maybe I'm gonna anger the wrath of 1,000 Charlotte. First of all, the crowd, Charlotte fans, everybody, fantastic. Everything that the team is trying to do pregame, during the match, after the match, I don't know, man. It needs some work. So I walk in. So they have a pre-match intro, and it's like this medieval theme as I'm seeing this graphic go across. They have a knight come out and light. I had no idea they did this. They must do this for every game. They have like a knight come out with fire and like light, sort of pretend light a fire, and the fire blows up. Then he goes away, and then they go again. They play like a medieval video, and I get they're the Queen City. They have this big thing about the crown. That's all well and good. It just feels like they are like shotgunning like pregame rituals in hopes that something like actually catches on. Doesn't feel very coordinated. So again, the fans were great. I think they actually had a really cool, like they like turn around and like do a jump. And apparently that came from the supporters. Like that stuff's cool. That stuff feels organic. It feels natural. The rest of the pregame just felt kind of like forced, was kind of the way I guess I would describe it. So I don't know. Some constructive criticism, Charlotte. Don't take offense to it.
They should instead throw foam crates of tea onto the field. That's what they should do instead.
Yes. Serminti is awesome. Serminti is an awesome and objectively good mascot. The giveaway they had was good with the t-shirt. The stadium is the stadium, but overall, there's a lot of people out there. Fantastic. Really, no one. I think some pretty well-behaved fans. I didn't really have any altercations. No one yelling at us or screaming at us or mocking us. So kind of like we almost weren't there. Of course, they won, so that maybe makes it easy. But overall, decent experience. Just some criticism from the pre-match. So let's get into it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was no Atlanta United game presentation. You're trying to say?
Yeah, man. That and maybe I would have thought it was cooler. They also had like a halftime guitar thing going on, which is fine. But didn't Nashville started that whole thing? So it's like you're already borrowing something from another team. It kind of felt a little, and I think they're also trying to do like the crown thing, like Atlanta. So I don't know. I just feel like if they kind of let it happen naturally, Atlanta stuff was kind of all still linked to the fans, and that's what made it cool. The golden spike, everybody signs, the fans sign it in the beginning.
Yep.
They nail and it all feels very, very good. So, all All right, let's get into it. Let's no further delay. Let's talk about the team that actually did beat us and is currently having, we can say, a better season than DC United right now, and that's Charlotte FC. Winners 1-0 over DC United. John, I don't know how much I know you were busy at Audi Field, so maybe not a whole lot you can do for this. So I'll kind of carry the show here on the analysis. And I wanted to also watch the game again. Didn't get really a chance to do that. So do my best from, watching from a slightly acute angle. But
hopefully this is not your first episode of RFKRFGs if you're listening to this. Typically, we watch the games, for instance.
Let's talk about the pre-match. I think we can both talk about that. So, pre-match comes in. We know how light DC United's bench is, and we know how lack of depth they have right now. It is what it is right now. There is some good news maybe related to certain players getting green cards and no longer counting as internationals. That might hopefully maybe contribute to some good beginnings or some good things. But DC United had some players missing. They had Herrera on the bench. Apparently just kind of there as like an emergency body. He did not actually sub in. Teku Di Pietro apparently dealing with illness. So we're assuming some sort of viral thing, just wasn't up to it. So thankfully not, a leg injury or something that might impact him. Hopefully he's good to go on Wednesday. Jackson Hopkins out with a lower back issue. So we'll have to monitor that and see, what comes of that. And then, of course, Steve Birnbaum was already reported. He was out. And then Gabriel Pirani was absent as well. And Stephen Goff really kind of like dropping, I think someone maybe dropped him. Oh, yeah, it's something to do with his visa. And so he tweeted out visa issues, which I think then someone saw the tweet at the front office. Maybe it was Ali Mackay being like, hold on. He's getting a green card. Don't worry. This is a good thing. Because visa issues and getting a green card, completely different things. So, yes, Gabriel Pirani apparently going back to Brazil, going to get his visa taken care of and apparently come back with a green card, which means he no longer counts as international. We'll talk about the implications of that, after we get to the game. So, obviously, lineup kicks out. You have Benteke up top. You have Mural sort of being the second forward. Another opportunity for him. It pushed Matty Petzola into the defensive midfield, and you had Matej Akimboni, Garrison Tubbs, and Lucas Bartlett being as the three-line center back pairing. And then, of course, I think they kind of had either sorry, I'm trying to remember, dig deep and remember now. They had, of course, Dahome, I believe, out on the left side. And then I'm trying for the life of me to remember who was the right-sided wing back. And
Pedro Santos.
Pedro Santos, thank you. Might have been, and I think they kind of switched them at certain points of the game. So one point they're on the left,
because they're both left-sided, and one had to play the right side. So I don't know, you take it for a bit, I guess.
Yeah. So not an ideal situation heading into this game, but a team that doesn't really have a lot of offensive firepower. I think maybe you're looking to see this game out. This was not a pretty game. This was not a fun game to watch. This was not a game that's going to go back and watch it again. I would say Charlotte probably had a little bit of the better of play, but were very sloppy in finishing. I think defensively, DC, considering you have, a rookie center back in Garrison Tubbs and a 16, 17-year-old in Matej Akimboni, who's, a little bit younger and still kind of developing. And Lucas Bartlett obviously is there and is kind of the solid, center back piece. I thought those two were maybe my highlights of the game, just because they were not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you looked at this, and this is the first time I've kind of looked at both of them and said, I think these guys can, they're getting closer. You can see where that progression is coming to where they can step up and potentially maybe start to compete more for minutes, maybe be the starter. Right now, DC's center back pairings are shot, Antley, McVeigh, and now Birnbaum all out. So they're going to play and they're going to get minutes and they're going to get opportunities. So seeing that made me hopeful. Again, Charlotte is not the best attacking team in the world. They are far from it. In fact, they've really sort of relied on their stout defense. They have Abada, who's probably their best player in the attack. And of course, Ajaman, who has, been solid and certainly a piece to watch, but maybe not a huge threat going forward. So overall, like, I thought they did a decent job of kind of just holding it. I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe Herrera at the time. I was like, well, maybe Herrera can go at least 30 minutes. Maybe once he gets in here, things sort of connect. Offensively, I think this team, again, Charlotte does a good job. They kind of take Benteke out of the game. Benteke, of course, wins aerials in midfield, but I think right now teams are like, yeah, go ahead, win those aerials in midfield. It's going to go to either our team or go nowhere. And that's been maybe a sort of developing storyline. Benteke's aerial dominance is, of course, great. It's what makes this team so good. But there isn't really anybody who can kind of run onto the ball. And that was evident in this game. Balls would go off Benteke's head. I can't recall a single time Benteke won an aerial and it landed to a DC United player and generated into an attack.
This is kind of what I was talking about last week, where I said there's an argument to be made that the illusion that the progress is a bit of an illusion when you're still relying so much on one player and not developing alternative methods of attacking. You leave yourself to situations where A, tactically it won't work, and then B, you've got no plan for if he leaves or gets hurt. On a player with an option, certainly you can exercise it if he wants to stay, et cetera, et cetera. But that's sort of the thing I look at when I think about, well, we've come so far this year, everything's different, where this is a rebuild year. There's certainly an argument that that's true. I think there's also an argument that says, until you develop an alternative offensive style that's functional, you're not making as much progress as you think, because it's all of your offense is tied into this one player who can have a bad game, who could get hurt, who could not come back next year, and then you are up the creek in every way.
Yeah, I think this team, they desperately need an elite attacking midfield option. They need somebody to link the ball. Yeah, a Lucho, exactly. Gabriel Pirani is maybe supposed to be that guy this year, and now he's going to be, his real service now is that he's going to have a green card, which helps DC in other ways in terms of roster building. It might be the most impactful thing a number 10 has done for DC in a while, and we'll get into that in a minute.
It's certainly the best thing Pirani's done as a DC United player.
Yeah, yeah. He scored some goals. We'll
still the best.
Still the best. Okay, fair. But yeah, I mean, it just feels like, the team did, and there were moments the team, got the ball, was able to maybe hold some possession, pass it around. And that's really been where this team has been able to be effective, when they've been able to kind of break teams down, through some of that passing, and sort of allow, win the ball from Benteke directly. And then you kind of can pass it around. He can sort of shift into the box, find the space, find the opportunities. And get him in opportunities where he's 8 feet in front of goal. And that has come from, we talk about when this team has been most successful. It's come from, a combination of Herrera and Stroud kind of being on that right side. They can overload that right side. Herrera's not there. Instead, you're stuck with Pedro Santos, who's like cratering as far as I'm concerned, as far as effectiveness. He is just, he is a bit player. Honestly, if Schnegg comes in and you give Pedro Santos like maybe a couple weeks off where he can maybe recover a little bit, maybe then he can be a more effective player kind of in short bursts. But right now, as a 90-minute player, I mean, it's rough. Dahomey is not, and I really think that's where the lack of effectiveness comes in. Is, Herrera's great, but you don't have a complement to that on the left side that can kind of stretch those defenses. And in this game, they had it no places. So.
Not good. That's you don't like that when you have no attacking vectors at all towards your only threat.
Other positives, I thought Petzola looked a little better, kind of being in his natural position. I think this might be a case where, I've talked about him as the third center back and how it can work. I think he, could maybe develop into that, but maybe with the way MLS is as a physical league, maybe it just can't work. Or you need like two very elite center backs that can, cover the ground, and I just don't think you're going to get that with either a combination of Garrison Tubbs Lucas Bartlett, as good as Lucas Bartlett has been this year, of Garrison Tubbs, Lucas Bartlett, or Matej Akimboni. Matej might develop into that player. He's not there yet. So I think the future right now for this team, if they want to be first 11, is I think you have to do Tubbs, Akimboni and Bartlett, and kind of see how that goes, and play Matej in sort of the center defensive midfield position. I will say I think this team, especially in the middle, missed Jackson Hopkins a little bit. His role as kind of a shuttler and kind of being able to sort of progress the ball out of the defense into the midfield. That is one part of his game that I think he's been pretty effective at. It hasn't been perfect. It's not elite level, but it certainly gives DC an ability to get the ball forward. And I think that's where this team has really struggled, is because really all they had was like long ball over the top to Benteke. They didn't have anybody, and I thought Petzela could be that guy. He was not in this game.
He's still my heart, Ted, loving on Jackson Hopkins. I can't get enough of that.
If we could find a better option and a more elite player at doing that right now, I would maybe take that over Jackson. But
that could be said in many spots on this team right now at the moment. I'm trying to think when our show was last week, and I know we didn't do a Friday show. Do we have a chance to talk about Steve's undetermined future?
We can certainly let me finish a little bit of the game. Sure. DC gives up the.
This was kind of funky, right? This was sort of a conversation point.
So to highlight, so I think I couldn't quite see, it was sort of on the far side of my field, but I kind of was following the chat a little bit. So the referee, there was a corner kick lined up. The key player looks like he's about ready to take the kick, or he's in the process of doing it. Referee blows the whistle, and issues a yellow card to a Charlotte player. They actually didn't even announce it at the stadium. Everybody thought the play was over. Everybody goes back and basically says, okay, we're done here. And I guess it would be a foul. And the referee sort of calls him back, says, no, retake the corner kick. And essentially on that next play, Charlotte scores. And, bad defensive marking. They don't pick up the runner. It's a corner kick. There's a million things you can kind of point to on that play. I don't know if it's worth really dissecting it too much. But anyway, referee, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, again, it's a loud stadium. I maybe couldn't hear the whistle. Looks like he got the call correct. That is what you're supposed to do, regardless of whether it benefits or doesn't benefit DC. So I don't know if it's much of a talking point as it is, maybe as a biased fan, you're thinking, oh man, it's a foul. Like, why do they get the opportunity and then they score off of it? So
I just heard lots of complaining, but that's because of the fans. So that's makes sense that I would hear that.
Yeah. But yeah, so the goal happens right at halftime. I think that was really bad because it really did look like, I don't know. It definitely felt like at that point that this was going to be a tough sell. My only hope was like, all right, maybe we get Ted in there. And I think this shows a sense of, you look at the subs that Troy brought in. He brought in everybody. He brought in Christian Fletcher. He brought in Ted Pietro. He went out and brought in, some of the more attacking subs, and it's been a troubling storyline, I think, for this team is, we see the depth and maybe there needs to be some organization. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like any of these guys really could take control of the game. The team looked just kind of disjointed in attack. There was like just nothing. There was no real organization, no real passing, no real movements. Maybe you can point out a couple look, Christian Fletcher did that well. And I'm like, okay, but it didn't really amount to any sort of like real chance. The team never really generated, a decent chance, other than like, a shot from Jared Stroud. There were no real decent chances. So I think it's high time. I think this is a summer window that this team needs to get somebody else in to maybe provide a little competition. And maybe that's when we start to see guys kind of step up. So
Fletcher had 0.03 expected assists, no chances created in 30 minutes, 22 touches, one in the opponent's box. So not an impact appearance by him. It looks like that's the case for all of our subs here. 0.01 XA for Ted Kudipietro and Martin Rodriguez, 0.04.
Yeah.
He touched the ball the most out of all those players, but didn't really matter too much.
Yeah, and I'm maybe getting off. I feel like Jacob Murrell had the bandwagon for a bit, and I'm kind of starting to get off it a little bit because
5.6 foot mob. I know you don't care for their ratings, but woof.
And that to me, that's rating sums up his performance. He was just missed passes, not really being effective, and I'm gonna give a pass to Ted Kudipietro coming off illness, maybe not being 100% fit, 100%. Feeling 100%, and starting in a game, maybe he has a little bit more of an impact. But I mean, right now, I don't see any reason why Ted should be losing his job right now over Jacob Murrell, because at the very least, you see some attempts from Ted to find the game, find passes, find movement. So
here are my favorite two stats on him: 0 for 5 on ground duels and 1 touch in the opposition box.
Was that Murrell or
that's Murrell?
Yeah, it was not a strong performance from him, and that's an opportunity he could have used.
Yep.
So it's
you talked about this a number of times, right? Like there's seizing the opportunity, and then there's letting it go by, and we're seeing too much of the second thing with these rookies. I think Matai is the other way, right? I think he was not. I don't think he got enough opportunities in the first half of the season. He was just too far down the depth chart and didn't really get a chance to make those steps. Maybe he was poor in training, and that made it so that he never got those opportunities really. But I think I didn't see this game. I've seen him since. He looks fine out there. He does not look out of place. There are still things about his game that he needs to develop, but it's obvious he's 17. He's figuring it out. He's learning on the job. And as opposed to Kristen Fletcher, who came in with a lot of expectations and has scored a goal and then done nothing else. And it's not like we don't need forward either chance creation or goal scoring. We need both of those things, and he's not getting it done. So unfortunate.
And you brought up we brought up this point also. I want to make sure Garrison Tubbs, I think as well, showed well in this game, and he showed well in a couple other appearances too. So he's a guy I'm looking out. He's a little bit on the older side, so maybe certainly maybe has a little more physical development than a Matej Akimboni. But I think those guys are maybe on my watch list as, I talked about young players that can seize the moment, and having either one of those guys, be successful and turn into, good to pretty good MLS defenders, really changes a lot of calculus with how the roster is going to be built and what the team feels like they might need to do. Let's get into that. Some of that calculus. Let's talk about.
I was going to say one thing. I think if this season takes a nosedive here in June and July, before the window, and we're just not getting any points at all, I think you commit to Garrison Tubbs and Matai being in the starting lineup every game, and you just ride that out, and maybe cycle Bartlett and McVeigh when he comes back among the three. But those are players that we have no prospects in the back other than those two players. So they really need to, particularly if a season is a rebuild year loss season, and this one's not there yet, to be clear, but if it gets there, and it can easily get there in the course of a month and a half, if you're not getting any points, then that's at least something positive that can come from it, I think.
We'll see. I think there is a calculus going on right now for this year from and kind of what I'm hearing about the press, how he's talking about certain injuries. It's kind of like, maybe we could have played him, but we're trying to maybe look. I think this team is full on. I think right now the directive either coming from McVeigh or coming from Troy, or the idea of Troy is, we're going to manage what we can out of the June, and then we're going to get through Leagues Cup. And then once Leagues Cup's over, then we're going to see where we are, and we're going to have hopefully some replacements come in or some players come in. Maybe we can get out of some contracts, and then we'll have a roster that can, put it together, compete. And if they don't, then, this has always kind of been, a sort of rebuild type project. There's a reason this roster looks the way they do.
Yep.
So, all right, let's talk about some of the calculus. Let's talk about Steve Birnbaum. His his injury picked up. There's apparently not a timetable that's been sort of put on his recovery. Troy kind of like saying, well, he aggravated it, but he doesn't need surgery. It's kind of re-injured, so we're kind of going to take it easy and take it on a timetable. At this point, I don't want to say he's done yet. I'm not going to go there yet, but got to start thinking that this is like a re-injury. He is paid. He is probably our highest paid defender. I think he is, without a question. Our highest
now that
paid
Jazzy
defender.
has been cut, yeah, probably so.
I think he's making about $800,000 a year. I think he's on that like level, and Yaz wasn't even making that, and so yeah,
well, he's going to be a very well paid fourth center back when he comes back next year.
Yeah, that's right. He's on a 2-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think maybe there's a way as a team you can figure out a way to supplement that, or maybe push the contract into a coaching gig. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. I think this team, if Birnbaum is done, you have a massive, and it's no disrespect to Birnbaum if he thinks he can come back, but I think honestly, maybe I know we talked about the buyout for potentially for Martin Rodriguez. Maybe you look at this as a potential like buyout for Steve Birnbaum.
I'm just laughing thinking about Jason Levy and with a checkbook just kind of on fire. He's just like, and Mackay is like outside his door with like a list of like a bunch of folders in a stack. Like, okay, I know you just talked to me about Mohamed, and I thank you so much for that. I have some other ideas. And he just lays some folders on the table like, here's an opportunity that you can think about. This is $800,000 this year and next year. We can get out of it today. Other option, we got another player here from Chile, has a team that wants him right away, but they don't want to take that contract on. We can just let him go.
Well, interesting about Colo Colo is apparently he wants to go back, but Colo Colo are not too keen, or at least the fans want him back. Everybody wants him back except the like people that actually matter, basically.
Where did this come out?
I think he had a I think it was either an interview, or I think he was Twitch streaming, and they were asked about him returning to Colo Colo, and he's like, put some pressure on the club president to bring me back, because apparently
embarrassing. He has been.
Well,
been posting,
you know what?
He's been posting about it all year, as though he were coming back already. He was making it sound like clearly his agent was like, "Listen, it's like the Costanza. If you just show up to work, they're gonna think you work there. So we'll just show up. We'll just show up in the fall."
Yeah, I think it's an issue. He's going to want to be paid. He knows the fans want him. He's going to want to be paid probably at least his contract is, and I don't think anybody's going to at Colo Colo wants to pay him that. So he's here. I've kind of just been like, you know what? If we don't buy him out, he's gone next year. Yeah, at a certain point, maybe it's going to be like, well, it doesn't really matter at this point.
And he's a body, and he's been available, which you cannot say for everybody.
And we'll get into a little bit maybe why it won't. Maybe it won't matter. But first, let's close. I think maybe close the book on Birn-Bummed. Do you think you could convince? Do you think he'd be worthwhile if you convinced to say, look, here, we're still going to pay you out your contract. We're going to give you We're going to take this contract and we're going to pay it out, but you're going to be an assistant coach, have a job. You can become. We can, pay you basically what you make, but you'll be an assistant coach on this team, and you'll pay out the rest. You'll serve out the rest of that contract on that, and then we'll see where it goes from here.
I don't know that MLS rules allow that kind of thing. Like, it's very do they?
Well, I said, well, why not?
Because you're contracted as a player and your obligations are to that salary cap. And
if he retires, though, if he says I'm retiring from playing.
Yes, if you could convince him,
then he forgoes that contract, and then they offer him a contract to be a coach for around the same level. Like,
if you could convince him to retire and he wanted to retire, then yes. If he doesn't want to retire, if he thinks I'm going to come back next year, then you're host.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I get the impression that he does not want to quit. Even though he just went through extensive rehab, you can't force a man out the door. And I bet you $1 to a donut that he is going to rehab this thing, try to get back the end of this year. He's going to rehab over the summer or rehab over the winter, and he's going to give it one earnest push next year. And then if things go wrong, like early, then maybe he retires a little bit before his end of his contract. But I think he wants to keep giving it a shot.
We'll see. We'll see. I think that's going to be a storyline to follow with this team. Let's get into, let's talk about a little bit the good news we got from, and then we got, I think, one listener question that came in from Facebook of all places, which I don't think we've ever had a Facebook question.
Follow us on Facebook. Tell your mom to follow us on Facebook.
Let's talk about the good news of the day, which is that Gabe Pirani has a green card, or will be supposedly receiving a green card. I don't know if he'll get it by this Wednesday or if he'll be back Wednesday. I guess it remains to be seen. But, hopefully he doesn't pull a Emmanuel Reynoso, though maybe if for
Please
John's...
Please do. Don't ride around with people with guns like he did, but just if you want to just take a vacation, that's fine. It's all right, no problem.
Oh man, I still believe in you. I still believe in you, Pirani. I still believe in you, buddy. I still believe in you. But hey, I think it is. If he was brought back because he was like, look, he's close to a green card, then honestly, like, what a masterclass by
I don't know,
McKay.
man. I don't. Let's pump the brakes hard. 2 foot on the brake pedal. I don't know.
I mean, his contract becomes like a little bit more palatable. I mean, he's a U-22 slot, doesn't take up much of the cap. He's using one of those slots. He now no longer counts as an international. He basically frees you up an opportunity to go grab another U-22 attacker international or some other player that can help improve your squad. So I don't know. I think this is potentially a big move for this offseason. That the one sort of the reason, and really it kind of lessens for me the pressure to oust a guy like Rodriguez, because the big reason we wanted to sort of get rid of Rodriguez is because that international slot along with the salary. Now the international part is gone. We still have an opportunity to get one more player. It'd be nice if we could get him and have somebody else come in. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how much they have in July. I think a lot of people seem to think that maybe they're full up on roster or they're full up on everything else. I think they can still go out and get a U-22 slot. They should still have some room for that. I hope at least.
I'm struggling to fight my DC United fan history, like dependency is. Understanding, an under 22 spot would be great. And then I'm thinking, we need proven MLS veterans right now is what we need to fill in these spots. But that's in a year where you are in a different spot than we are, right? Like I gotta get out of that mindset where you're like, let's just plug these holes. We just gotta plug these holes with MLS vets and everything will be all right. Let's get some, like, where's your Joseph Duenas? Where are your Dax McCarty? Well, Dax was actually a pretty big signing at that time, but trying to find like your MLS retreads to at least get you to the finish line so that dependably your Lloyd Sams, for instance. But maybe that's not what we do this year. Maybe we have to change what we're looking for.
I'm perfectly fine with this team. We have talked ad nauseum about how this team is always win now. It's always, just focused on plugging the gaps, and then then they kind of wait out contracts. DPs don't work out. It's just kind of scramble. And I am kind of for this team, maybe saying, look, we're going to suffer a little bit, but we have a more concrete plan. It could not work, but I think we're seeing a little different than before. You can't just expect a team. And sometimes it works out. And I think early this season, it was looking like a masterclass. It was looking like a great move. But yeah, I think right now, maybe you're seeing what the potential downside of doing such a thing, at least in the short term, is. But I think we all would have asked, people who follow this team, very closely. This is kind of what I feel like we all wanted, which was a team that was being deliberate, that was finally maybe showing a long-term plan. If it doesn't work out this year, you know what? We probably, even if we had gone out and signed some, MLS veterans, if we had a deeper roster, but, maybe it was an average roster, we had to swallow some contracts. We were maybe at best going to finish, 8th, 7th, or 6th or something like that, with maybe but not, win a playoff game or even, advance very far in the MLS Cup playoffs. If we want this team to be successful, maybe we need to accept kind of a total burn down and deliberate rebuild. And if that means we are top 5 in the East in a couple of years, all be worth it.
The other side of that is that, what we could have done and not have it really hindered our future is sign, I hate to say it again, like your Drew Skundriches of the universe, your USL tweeners, think about having another defensive midfielder right now. You would like that, right? You'd like to have a third one that could sort of pivot in there and play as necessary. You can think of just looking at Loudoun's roster.
So what you're saying is you would like to sign, like, you would like to go out and grab like a player that another team is trying to offload, like a Dahomey style player in center defensive midfielder. That's
not
what you're
taking on Dahome's contract level necessarily, but a player who does not come.
But that's the only way you're gonna. This is what I'm trying to say, man. That's the only way you're going to get those types of players because they're usually
available. He wouldn't cost anything. Literally, Drew Skundrich would not, like a player of a U.S. I'm talking about literal bodies. So you do not have. So you have substitutes. So you have a full traveling roster. A USL level player is better than an invisible player that does not exist. That does not have that. I don't want to take on Dahomey in 2 years of contract. That was a roster spot. That was a different move. I think I'm not looking for MLS impact. I'm looking for human body with arms and legs that can play soccer at some level and has played soccer at some level.
So you're saying we do the same crap we've done since Audi Field, like really like the same type of like transfer strategy. That's what you're advocating.
Maybe Eric Hurtado.
Because that's what we've done. We've done. I'm getting this is the first time I've gotten extremely frustrated at you, John. That is what we have done. That is what we have done for years, and it has brought us zero results. They are at least doing something different with this roster.
Yeah, they're strapping.
I'm sorry if I blew out your.
They're strapping their arms behind their back and going into games with 2 goalkeepers every match as among your available subs. If we have a forward go down, what are we going to do? If Benteke gets hurt again, what are we going to do?
So John is officially okay with this team finishing 8th or 9th in the East and maybe 10th or.
I am not okay with this team not having a full roster complement. That's what I'm not okay with.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna pause that. I you know what I get what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm at least happy with something. If we're here next year, I've said if we're here next year like this, absolutely. Like McCabe should be run out on a freaking spike, and I think Troy would probably join us in that regard. But for right now, this team has some bad contracts they've had to like dig themselves out under. That's not something you can necessarily do overnight. And you can go out and sign a Drew Skundrich. You can go out and sign those types of players, but you're not going to get yourself any closer, and you're going to potentially hinder an opportunity to maybe say, we'll be a little light, but we have a cap space to bring in a player. And then once we're smooth out a lot of that dead weight, then we have the room function to actually build something good and very good, potentially very good in 2025. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of MLS roster-ness behind the scenes, and I think we'll see what this July. I feel like all of this was done in a certain sense to set this team up to where they can make some moves in July by not signing some of those players and filling your roster slot that with $4 $70,000 players that it ends up being $280 against the cap. That prevents you from signing maybe a big impact player. Let's see what the summer window brings. I'm sorry for yelling at you, John. I hope I didn't blow out your speakers.
I don't care if you yell at me. That's fine. That makes for a better show. I'm going to take the last word since you did yell at me. I am not referring to your Juan Chopes that you're bringing in at $450,000 that are keeping young players off the field, which is the biggest problem. So there's 2 problems with bringing in MLS retreads. One, contract that extends beyond a year that allows you, that gets in the way of other signings that you want to make. And then 2, blocks players that need to get minutes. The blocking thing is clearly not happening. I think that these players are getting all the opportunities that they should be. They're not earning any more of them. Christian Fletcher has not earned more minutes. Jacob Murrell has been given more minutes, but he had 2 or 3 good appearances, and now and that's why he gets a start like this. But I don't think that if you are signing a player, and also too, like if in this summer the options were sign 2 players that have a more promising future, that are committed dollars beyond this year that we're making an investment in, or sign 4 players in positions of need that have contracts that expire at the end of this year, and that's it. Then I think you have a better argument to say it's worth being shorthanded because we've got to look forward. If they don't do either, if they don't do those things because they say we don't have the room or whatever, then we're just kind of up shit creek without a paddle for the rest of this year, and we've just got to struggle through and have these embarrassing situations where we've got 4 people on the traveling roster. Rob Usry had like a Twitter thing. He's like, I can't believe we have 2 goalkeepers on our bench. I'm like, buddy, stop copying us. This is all we do. We have multiple goalkeepers and illegal substitutions. Get with the times. Easton has been here. Anyway, I think we'll see in July what the we don't know what the cap is. We don't know what players they want to target. We know what positions they need. It's visible. David Schneider obviously will solve one of the most low hanging fruit of these, but there are other very obvious needs, and we get to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think this is. I think I'm going to guess I will be proven right when we look at what they're able to bring in the summer window. At least I hope I'm right. So, all right. And they got 2 games coming up. You will be at the game against Houston. For that, they've got Atlanta, a team they played very well. This is sort of the last time they played a game that was really good. So again, in another, what's that?
May 11th was the date of that game.
Yeah, geez. Already a month away. So here's an opportunity for this team maybe to, pile on. It's a team they're comfortable playing against. I think a team maybe less equipped to handle Benteke. I think this is a game where they bounce back and they actually get a win. I actually think that. I think this team is without Gakamakis. Gakamakis is gone. Almeida is, is basically kind of just basically burned up a lot of value this year. I think that hasn't got enough story. He's been good, and maybe he's been one of the few good parts of this game, but he is definitely going to be you can't imagine he's happy with the fact that Gakamakis comes in here less than he is and gets a transfer out, and he's been waiting for his moment to get a transfer, and it hasn't happened yet. So that's going to be something to watch. They did not really, from what I can see, maybe a 2-2 draw against Houston is a new coach bounce, but yeah, but I think this is a team that is going to still be struggling against DC. I am hopeful they can sort of put it together and get a result. So I think we'll see a similar type of philosophy. Hopefully Herrera is healthy. Hopefully that was the plan is to keep him healthy for a game against at home where you can go out and get 3 points. We'll see if Brownie's back. We'll see if Teku DiPietro starts, and maybe we'll get a different result. I'm going to go positive here. I'm going to go 2-1 DC.
Prioritize for me both of these games because they're a Wednesday, Saturday game. So do you prioritize one over the other, try to get a win, and then give Benteke a blow in the second one? Or you just say go? I mean, there isn't very much rotation you can do because we have no players. But do you just roll out the same lineup and hope they don't get hurt within those 2 days?
I mean, I think you'll put Teku DiPietro in. He basically didn't play. I think you still play Benteke. He's been playing forever, and I think this is the one team you've been able to sort of really impose your will against.
Yep.
I'm hopeful the resting of Herrera, that he's back and good to go. His foot issue is maybe cleared up and he can go out there and play. And then, I think you prioritize this game against Atlanta. You need some sort of momentum. I think you need an ability to bounce back. And this is a team that you have played well against and beaten. It's probably been your best game of the year. So I think you have to prioritize this game. And it's also an in-conference opponent, which, those do matter more in the large stretch of things than a game against a non conference opponent. So
Houston's got 1 win in 5. They've got a bunch of draws. They're pretty much unbeaten. So they're
formidable, no doubt.
It'll be interesting. I would have preferred to give Ben a match, and hopefully that's what they're able to do. Play both of those games, but yeah, we'll see. I am. How many points between the 2 games do you think?
4.
I'll go 4-2.
Yeah, I think they can beat Atlanta, and I think they get a draw against Houston. 3-week third match, they have to travel. DC doesn't, at least, so I think that benefits them.
The weird part about this year and the way things are set up is that they could also get no points. That's I could see that.
Oh, it's very possible. Yeah,
very, very possible happening. But the weird part about it is there's no recourse for like a serious fan could not do anything. Like they wouldn't be like, well, we need to do X, Y, or Z. It's like you just gotta take it. You just gotta take it on the chin until July, and then see where you're at. We got another couple weeks. Is it July 1 the window opens up?
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. It's not
July
that much longer.
18th, I think, is when. So it's like right before Leagues Cup. So
all right. So we've got 3 more games to get through before David Schnegg can at least arrive. Well, he can't even train with the team until the 1st, right? That's when transfer certificates can be processed, right? Probably.
Possibly, I'm not sure. I think he can't arrive until maybe he can train. I'm not sure
because I know in NWSL, Esme Morgan is coming and she's able to train for a month before she can play, which is actually kind of great. But I don't know if the same thing applies here. So you got for the rest of this month is Atlanta, Houston, Red Bull again. Good Lord, don't want to play Red Bull again, and then Cincinnati on the 3rd of July. So I think you're not going to get any relief until after Cincinnati probably. Hopefully I'm sure there's lots of irons in the fire. So DC United fans, just hold on. Yeah. The next 2-3 weeks could be pretty bad, but maybe they'll be good. 4 points from 2 would give you a little bit of hope, I think.
I'm hopeful from a transfer perspective it'll be good.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's get to the fun. Let's get to the fun game. Let's talk Washington Spirit. Washington Spirit 1-1 draw against San Diego Wave at a sold out Audi Field, and it felt extremely loud.
Yes,
John, you were there, my friend.
I was.
Give us the rundown. Give us thoughts. I've talked enough. Now's your turn.
Yeah. Yep, it was sold out, and it was. You could definitely tell the experience to get into the stadium, the experience to get concessions, the experience to do anything was different with a full house. The very, very loud. From a lineup perspective, we knew that Andy was on the questionable list. And I think we said on the show that if that were to happen, Paige would probably slide in the midfield, and that's what happened. Courtney Brown also starting, and did not do well. We'll get to that, I guess. But Courtney Brown starting, coming in for what I guess is typically Ashley Hatch's position. And then, the Wave lined up. Alex Morgan only returned very briefly from injury. This was, I think, her 2nd game back. Maria Sanchez, who has not really found her feet yet, coming from Houston. I would say she kind of found her feet a little bit in this game. This is a lineup. I was kind of impressed by this lineup. I don't follow the Wave as closely as I should. I think maybe West Coast teams get a little short shrift from me because I'm not up usually watching 10 o'clock games because I am old. But their roster, if you look at this roster, Alex Morgan, Maria Sanchez, Jaden Shaw, Claire McCaskill, Danielle Colaprico, Dal Kemper, Gurma, Sheridan. These are like that spine is like spirit-like. That is a impressive roster that they put together. Not a lot of got Michelle Doniak on the bench. There's also I'm trying to remember her name. She's in the national team pool. She came over from Orlando. She's very, very tall. I can't remember her name right now. Anyway, they're a good club. And that's something. This was always going to be a really big challenge. They've only played twice so far, and they have been goal scoring fests, both of them. So it was really a question like what was going to happen here in this game. The absence of Andy Sullivan immediately was evident. They were unable to control the ball at any point. It was very much the Trinity Rodman run real fast and get past their outside back and hope for an opportunity. That was the playbook for most of the game. That was kind of all that they could do, and they certainly did it. Things I want to call it. Yeah, Courtney Brown did not look good in that position at all. She had the least touches. She actually played 90 minutes, but she was mostly anonymous. She had 34 touches through 90 minutes, which is crazy. I think if you just put anybody out there like that, you'd be hard pressed to not have the ball find you that often. So she just was a real, only passed the ball 21 times, 3 times into the opposing. So not great for the mayor. I struggle to think why Brittany Ratcliffe would not a better starting chance than Courtney Brown, but they wanted to run it back. I think she had just played against Utah. She's from Utah, and I think had just played in that game against the Royals. But yeah, Paige Mateer, I want to talk about her for a minute. So, arguably in the conversation for Rookie of the Year last year, undrafted player, favorite of Mark Parsons. The way that they set up to play, she was integral. She never looked overmatched. She looked very calm on the ball. She made decisions very quickly. It was just perfect setup for her play style. This year, she has not looked good at all. She's never looked comfortable in this sort of setup. She has come in often as an injury substitute. One of the games that she played was a road game, which was one of the worst matches of the year. I'm trying to remember what it was. Might have been Chicago Red Stars when they lost 4-2. Might have been that game. Either way, it's not good. I think that she would not. We haven't had an opportunity to speak to her this year, but I would say that she would not be pleased with the way things are going so far this season. She has to. I don't know if it's a system situation. I don't know if it's just not playing enough to have confidence. But when she had the ball under pressure, she made the right decision 2 out of 3 times. 2 out of 4 times. And last year it was every single time. She was not getting forward as much. She created a big chance. I don't remember which one that was in the match, but it's not necessarily her fault. Her stats are kind of okay. It's just Andy Sullivan is Andy Sullivan, and Andy and Hal work the best together, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I don't. I saw some moments in the highlights I watched. Didn't have the time to watch the full game, so fully trust John's opinion here. But there were some moments where I felt her pressing maybe served the team a little bit well, or that she was able to force some mistakes from the Wave. And that's, I think, the style that we saw that they played sort of under Parsons, where they kind of pressed the ball a little bit. And this is now a team that is sort of, yes, they'll press maybe to win the ball, but they also will really develop and build slowly through players like Bethune. So it might be a adjustment for her to sort of grow and maybe sort of fit a different system. And that's been the struggle.
I want to say it's her best game of the year. It was just her not being Andy Sullivan caused this midfield to not be able to hold possession. Another thing happened that also made that so. Gabby Carl catches a knee or foot to the head after she makes a very nice sliding tackle, gets concussed, tries to stay in the game. About 5 minutes later, takes a knee and gets subbed off. So let's talk about depth. So the way this team is set up, obviously Kate Wiesner was not available. She was injured after the last match. The bench at the start of the game was Ashley Hatch, Brittany Radcliffe, Barney, McKenna Morris, who I believe is not featured at all this year, Chloe Ricketts, Heather Stainbrook, and Lena Solano. So of that, only McKenna Morris is listed as a defender. Let's see. Am I wrong? She has played 25 minutes in the opener against the Reign. So an ignominious start for her. No other defenders on that bench there. So Hal Hirschfeld was pushed into duty as the left back. Did okay. Did pretty good. I thought she did pretty dang good. Certainly not like, it's not like where she's best. Obviously, she looked like she is much more moving on instinct in the midfield because it's naturally she's played there in college. She got pushed into duty there a couple times so far this season, but this was her first 45, 60-minute opportunity. And hilariously, in the first minute after halftime, she gets a yellow card because she just kind of got okied as a left back. Like, just she could not handle it. And that's totally understandable. But the depth here is legit. It's still something to think about when you're one injury away from having no defenders that you can put in. Not ideal. So hopefully, SB Morgan, I guess we'll save it. No, I won't. I'll do it right now. SB Morgan announced, signed 4-year contract, longest contract ever given to a Spirit player. She'll come in July and play in August. She plays center back, she plays left back, she plays right back. So that's going to help you right there. You're going to have a little bit more flexibility. Other things to really focus on here. Aubrey Kingsbury she had 2 saves. I think both of them inside the box. Both of them were game savers. Goals that could have happened here. Croix hit the post in the first half. There weren't a lot of opportunities in the first half. It was looking pretty dire. At the end of the game, the stats piled up much more in the Spirit's favor. But the Wave held the ball. They did pretty well. I'm trying to think of other things there other than the talk about the goal.
Who do you feel like was at fault for the Wave goal? Because it's one of the things I was able to watch, and I have I maybe have some thoughts on the marking in particular.
The marking was bad, but I also think that they did not. Sanchez was doing really well on the wing, getting crosses in. She was not being slowed down or stopped at all. And I'm trying to remember who was out there. If it might have been Gabby Carl that was trying to close her down and wasn't able to do that. But what did you think there was problems in the box? I mean, obviously there was. She was pretty wide open to.
It looked to me like Mikion really was marking nobody, or the communication wasn't there to pick up anybody. She kind of stands in sort of open space. It's fine if she wants to move the ball or try to go win the ball, and it doesn't. Right. And then it ends up I think Bethune or no, not Bethune. Battelle is basically having to sort of cover two people, and one of those people is Sanchez, who puts the ball in the back of the net. So that's my perspective on it. I think mistakes are going to happen, and you're going to have games where things don't always go your way, and it's about how you fight through that and try to get some sort of result. You want to win your home games, and I'm sure they would have loved to have won this game in front of that sold out crowd, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. But
it felt like a win. I gotta be honest with you. For I think in the stadium by the players, Jaden Shaw scores again for the Wave, which should be illegal. I think we've talked about that. That goal should not count. None of them should. Unfortunately, that's not the way soccer works. Other players I want to call out. Trinity Rodman once again. She was hacked. The hack-a-shack was in play for Rodman, which is not new for her career. This is, I think, maybe her first yellow card for dissent. Like she was a candle that was burning the wick real short for the entire second half, and the ref finally had enough of it. But she posted on her Instagram story a picture of the foul up close where she got cleated in the Achilles. So she felt like she was rightful. But once again, a statistic. Great match for her. She created 3 chances. She was fouled the most times, like I said. A couple chances she probably should have done better on. But tried to dribble a lot, didn't work out. 7 out of 15 on the ground duels, 2 out of 2 in the aerials. So she is again a player that works on both sides. But we'll talk about the thing that matters most in the 94th minute. Casey Kruger plays a long ball over the top. It's headed away, but is not headed all the way out. It falls to Croix. Croix runs near post and beats Sheridan to the near post, scores, celebrates. 95th minute. Players go wild. Ule Sarr runs all the way from the sideline. And I think we talked about this. I don't know if we said it on Twitter. Like, that was the loudest I have ever heard an Audi. And I don't know if it's the press box different than maybe being in the stands, but it hurt my ears. My watch went off. It was like that loud, saying like, you might have sustained hearing loss if it stays this volume. And I think other than the De Leon goal and maybe the Rooney Lucha goal, I've not heard anything be that loud there. So amazing. Once again, Croix is obvious to me as a for sure rookie of the year, but should definitely get MVP votes. She's just her preternaturally gifted for the moment, and not getting sort of overwhelmed by the situations. She's just something. It's awesome to see. Casey Kruger, great match for her too.
It is. It is. And, I think it's good to see this team kind of pushing forward and, getting a result when maybe it looked like they weren't going to walk away with anything. And that can sometimes be, in some cases a little more important than, not getting a win, maybe a comfortable win. You kind of learn about who you are as a team. So I think that's certainly something.
It's early yet to be scoreboard watching, but also Kansas City Current and Orlando Pride also tied this weekend. So no changes to the table. You're still sort of where we're at. Spirit do not play. It doesn't get a lot easier for the Spirit. Gotham come to town. Nope, they go to New York or New Jersey in 6 days after Gotham just beat Racing Louisville away. I think it was away 2-0. So yeah, it was away. So oh wow. So the Gotham is undefeated in 5, won 4 in a row. Spirit are undefeated in 5, and the draw just happened. So they had previously won 4 in a row. So another clash of the Titans, a game you're really going to want to see how that one goes. It's a 1:30 start up in Harrison, New Jersey next weekend.
Yeah, and a 6-point swing. If the Spirit can pull off a victory, they move 7 points clear of Gotham. Gotham have a game in hand, but that keeps them kind of, at bay, where they can't really catch the Spirit. They can kind of, further sort of solidify that kind of top three, and kind of push away from maybe the pack down below. They, lose this game, and then they kind of slip back into, where it's sort of a 4-way race, maybe for that top spot instead of a 3-way race. So big match. I think a big match coming up this week, and we're getting close to Olympic time. And I think they're actually taking kind of a break, but I think there will still be some matches maybe while players are called in. So all right, I think that's going to do it. We did have a listener question, which dealing with DC United. I'll leave it up to you, Jen. You want to do it? Okay. So it says, "Good morning, gentlemen. I don't know who it's from, and I can't log into Facebook right now. So maybe you can help. You didn't post who it was.
I'll look it up.
Okay. Well, it says, "Good morning, gentlemen. Tough match last night. Announcer said we've only had a full squad for one match so far this season. It was incredible and leaves a new question. Hernan Losada complained about the hardness of practice pitches. Could have anything to do with the above average injuries we've seen this year and a year out."
It was Todd Dodge, by the way.
Yeah, Todd Dodge. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the complaining about the hard pitches was right when the training facility was built, right?
He's not the only coach to complain about that. I don't know about publicly, but there have been other coaches that have complained about that I've heard about. So they might be hard. I don't think you could draw a straight line. I think we've seen injuries in matches too, rather than in training. I don't think we've seen a huge number of training injuries. I think it's just there's a bias you get from paying attention to one team, is that you feel like you get the most injuries. And there are teams that are going through exactly the same situation that we just don't know about. We don't pay close attention to. So I don't think so. But certainly, I think that the training facility leaves some things to be desired. It needed to exist, so it exists. But it's always room for improvement, always ways to make it better. And I think the pitches are maybe one area still to look at. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's certainly an interesting question. I'd be curious to get Troy Lesane's take on the pitches and what he thinks and how that's if that's contributing
Troy's a
to anything.
Man. Troy's no Hernan Losada. He'll be like, they're great. I love them.
They're fine. They're great. They're perfect. I don't have any issues with them. All right, but I think that'll do it for this episode. Our Fear Refugees podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll hopefully have better times. We'll see you about a Friday show. Maybe, I don't know when John gets back, or
I'll be back. We can do it.
We can do it. Do one. Maybe do a post game. Mortem. Maybe we'll make that Patreon only, and then you'll get the full show coming up on Monday. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week, unless you're on Patreon. Vamos.